Discove, where residents have today been fleeing following recent clashes that left one chief and others kidnapped and hospitalized. There's tension in the town tonight, with the president calling on the police to take urgent steps to arrest and prosecute everyone involved in the bloody clashes. We take you live to the community for the very latest. Also tonight, government backs Reverend Professor Anthony Afo-Broni as the legitimate Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba, and wants the police to arrest Professor Avoke for trespassing.
There's only one legal, legitimate Vice Chancellor. It's Reverend Afo-Broni. Anybody who doesn't understand must go through the legal process. We are not, I repeat, we are not going to accept such things. I'm rather surprised that the police have not charged the trespassers.
And in business, World Bank warns next year's election still remains the biggest test in government's commitment to contain rising expenditure.
And later in sports, how much of the taxpayers' money was spent at AFCON 2019? The question has been answered by the minority is unconvinced and is demanding more answers. We'll hear from ranking member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sports and Culture, Kwabna Woyome.
And as we continue our campaign to protect media freedom and raise awareness about the need for journalists to go about their duties and work within an atmosphere of freedom, we will hear from veteran journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. as he decries the partisanship and division in the media, which he says accounts for some of the abuse that we've seen.
The fact that I'm a socialist does not mean that I should gloat when a non-socialist journalist gets into trouble. Journalism should unite all of us, irrespective of ideological inclination and so on, in the struggle to expand the space of freedom needed for our work.
You want to join us with your thoughts and comments on that story and more here on NEWSNITE? Send me a WhatsApp 0244 340437. My name is Evans Mensah. Well, President Akufo-Addo was today forced to call off a planned official visit to the Western Regional Community of Discove, where residents have today been fleeing following recent clashes that left one chief and others kidnapped and hospitalized. There is tension in the town tonight. The president has called on the police there to take urgent steps to arrest and prosecute everyone involved in the bloody clashes. The president was billed to cut sword for the construction of the London Beach at Discove, but he called it off. He has been visiting Axim in the Valley Jomorok district of the Western region. The president has been explaining to the chiefs and people that the current tensions within the community made it impossible for him to execute the planned agenda.
Discove. Namukoya also the answer na mabaha. Nenra any bebo mama ne. Isama emfatakra isi wo disco. Ah. Oheno awo lower disco so e Prada hospital. Na me catch a regional minister. Se croa sem e kosui. Enye croa me na nado danko Akufo-Addo. Mede menyu nyambe kwa akota wachi ti metwamu se me nkoho na maka kire police for so say one year a yes abone no e pro panyin no se woni eduo se woni ye ohawo ati se wonyina baako ye chiwo me ne won begina court na emra no eni won eye adwuba na sa woni etachi woni ye wonyina no emra no ene wo ebeye baako se nya no se nya ochirachi akwan bi aso sansemi yetumi refuse that na me bai me ko hospital me ko Afia Kwanta hospital e ko srad ansa na me ba ha akwakohwe me amedi mani akwakohwe ne pom nyakoba daroma doctor for no say ebeyie we prade na so no enye ayamhyesie epra nti efine ekwakose bia memenda no na yetumi ayi no ema wonya kwan akofie ana ma miensa na ya chi wo takrade no obi anda ho obia enda wo ho eno ase ne ebinum a timodefo wudifo na eye adwuma nti ekwan a ye fa ye hwe a ebetumi ahwe ye de emofra no obia enda ho yetumi nda wasemsem ho ebia ya anhyeda nka about ye ba beka de ye ya ebinum beka se yada entumi ba ne sa kana fo ma se BBSC na enya emfata ese kwan bia so aban de na ho den ne ne bibia tumi ye ne etumi ehu ba bia wo no.
So that is the president addressing the people in this in the region today. He abandoned his official visit to Katsor for the construction of the landing beach there, explaining to them why he didn't go because of the tensions in the community, but also saying that everything will be done to bring the perpetrators to book, asked the police to take those steps, and that nothing will be spared in the effort to deal with the situation there. He talks about the fact that he in fact went to visit the paramount chief in question, who was kidnapped, Nana Kwesi Ajiman, who was kidnapped and subsequently rescued by the police, and now we know has been hospitalized with injuries. He went to visit him in the hospital. In fact, our cameras were there. The president met him. This is what ensued in the conversation when the president was speaking to the chief's doctors, asking him how he was faring.
But then he was dizzy and all that. Yeah. He's better now. He's better now. Yes, please. How long has he been but we switched. We took pictures, trying to get a picture from the left eye was swollen with an entire bleed, red in the eye. With his
And that's the president interacting. Apologies for the poor quality there. But Natalia is on a line with me, my correspondent in the region, who was there with the president. Fill it in for me. When the president went to the hospital, he was obviously concerned about the health of the paramount chief, who had been kidnapped, rescued. But also we saw the footage. He seemed to have visible scars of being attacked.
Yes, Evans.
Let me understand what the president's concerns were when he went to the hospital.
Okay, so the president asked Nana Kwesi Agyemang the 9th whether he could identify the perpetrators of this act, but he said he could not because there were many, and the fact that there was blackout when this kidnapping went on, he could not. The president started asking that even if they were to bring one person there for him to identify, could he do that? The chief still insisted that he could not identify anyone. He told him that he was going to do everything possible to ensure that these perpetrators are brought to book and the right action is being taken against anyone who is involved in this unfortunate incident.
We've heard reports today that people are fleeing that community.
Yes. So since yesterday, we've had various reports that people, especially those in Upper District, are fleeing the community to Buzia, Aguna, and nearby communities because people in Lower District are retaliating.
And we know also that today there have been some fresh attacks. We've been speaking to one of the SAP chiefs who is explaining to us what happened today, where people, we understand, have also been injured in this latest clashes. He narrates what happened just today.
I was not at home Monday evening, but I was told some people went to my house. And they were told I was at the Pentecost church. They went there but did not find me. These people had sticks and guns. If they had met me there, it would have been a different story. However, this morning, I heard the son of Obrempong was severely beaten up, but he escaped and was rushed to the Ifiang Kwanta hospital. He would have died without God's intervention.
You're with me on the line. What's the situation on the ground now?
Yes, so Evans, people have fled the community, even though there is security presence trying to calm down the tension over there. People of Upper Discover are not in their community as we stand. Most of them have fled, as I said earlier, to other communities nearby.
And Ina, there's a long history to what we are witnessing. First of all, this is essentially about a piece of land, really, a part of the community that both sides, Lower Discov and Upper Discov, are laying claim to within this same community, correct?
Yes, Evans. So 3 months ago, the chief of Upper Discov, Nana Himadechi, the 14th, was launching his condom. And it is believed that people supposed to come from the faction of Lower Discov did attack them. It was during this time that after the attack, Nana Himadechi said it has been long overdue. Evans, we have a sound bite of that. Let's take a listen to what Himadechi said after his people were attacked when they were installing a chief in that community.
The security system in Ahanja has become problems. We can't trust the police anymore. We have taken side on issues. And the police from the will say, I'm not declare one disco. But I don't know, we will resolve it. We shall not be taken as a minimum. The regional police commander, through the divisional commander, about the citizen commander, about the chief inspector, all this over. The Public Order Act, there's an anonymous police for this that Upper District Traditional Council, and we shall not remain silent any longer.
So that's a paramount chief of Upper Discov. This is 3 months ago. Now you tell us that he was warning they would have to take matters into their own hands if the issue over the dispute about this piece of area isn't resolved, because there was an attempt to now install a chief there, and it appears that and that's why he's been arrested. The suspicion fell on him that he's carried out this threat.
And the fact that the chief, according to the police, found the Lower Discov chief and his 4 suspects in the 2nd floor of his palace.
So the situation on the ground currently, and with the police have said they're not speaking to it because, as far as they're concerned, there's calm there. But from what you report to us, people fleeing, it appears that, and the president, of course, raising the same concerns, reason why he's called off his official visit to the area. The reality is that the tension is very real, and people are still very much concerned about their safety in that community.
Sure, Evans.
I want to bring in Dominic Dadzi. He speaks for the kidnapped chief, Nana Akwesi Ajiman, who was visited today in a hospital by the president. And he joins me on the line right now. In fact, he's also a resident of Lower Discov. Dominic, thank you for your time here on NEWSNITE.
Yeah, you are welcome.
How is Nana doing?
No, Nana is doing fine. He's doing great.
And the president asked the question about whether he can identify those who kidnapped and attacked him. I know you are very close to him. You've been with him for a while in hospital. Do you know anything more about who may be behind this kidnap?
Well, actually, I cannot say who exactly are behind, but looking at the circumstances and all that we have said, and what all that has happened, we can point our fingers at Nana Himadechi, because the comments those big macho men made to him while he was kidnapped, that we are sending to Nana asked where he was being taken to, and they replied to Nana Ajimandada he was being taken to Nana Himadechi, and then one of the kidnapped chiefs, Nana Akroma, who was first taken to Nana Himadechi's palace, has confirmed that on his arrival, he saw Nana Dechi, his mother, the senior mother called Nana Basau, and Nana Eshake, and Esidonko. He saw all these persons at Nana Himadechi's palace, and they confronted him and even said that he should be tied with a black cloth around the eyes, tied on the hands and then the legs, and then be thrown onto the sea. Nana Akroma asked what he has done to merit that kind of treatment. And so there was that confrontation. He has given his statement to some of the media men, and he has written his statement to Disco Police at the Disco Police Station.
Yes, and the police have him down as a suspect as well, and investigations are continuing. The president had said today that he should do everything possible to arrest those who perpetrated this act.
Yeah, and again, looking at the background, that all those kidnapped chiefs and the other citizens were rescued by the police from Nana Himadechi's palace, points to the fact that he is rightly behind this incident.
Well, of course, as we speak now, he is just a suspect in the case. Nobody can say for sure if indeed he is. But let me ask you: you live in the lower Discov community, correct?
Right.
Yes. What is the situation on the ground now? I'm sure you are there currently.
Yeah, I'm here at Disco.
Well, what is the situation there now?
Oh, Disco is very, very calm. Very, very calm.
Do you have security presence on the ground, at least to forestall and reassure people?
Yeah, we have police personnel and military personnel from our Pramdo 2nd Battalion of Infantry Barracks.
And they're patrolling the streets tonight?
Yes.
You feel safe with the presence of military and police on the ground now that you have?
Well, for people at lower Disco, even without the presence of these personnel, we feel safe. Unless that probably what happened last night could be revisited by courtesy of people from Upper Disco. We are very peaceful. We are law-abiding. We've not meted out any inhuman activities against the people of Upper Disco. So looking at this background, we say we are safe. But if they shoot, we are not safe.
You mentioned last night, we saw pictures early this morning, people who had blood were oozing out of their heads and parts of their body from that community. Was there a fresh attack last night?
Come again,
was there a fresh attack last night from the pictures that we've seen this morning?
No. Apart from that, there hasn't been any other brutal incident.
Okay. Dominic, thank you very much for joining us from that part of the Western region. If you are there tonight and affected by any of this, and you've seen the military and police presence on the ground, please send us a WhatsApp. Tell me how this has affected you. 0244 340437. Now, the Education Minister, Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh, is shocked. The former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba, Professor Mauto Avoke, and others have not been arrested yet by the police for trespassing. Now, yesterday, the former Vice-Chancellor of the EUW, Professor Mauto Avoke, backed by other, former staff of the university, in fact, some current staff as well, they stormed the university, claiming that they were reinstating themselves, and particularly Mr. Avoke as Vice-Chancellor. He was accompanied by some staff who had also been dismissed by the university. Now, according to Professor Avoke, his decision followed the clearance by the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, which cleared him, he claims, of abuse of office.
It's also interesting to know that these dismissals were made despite the pendency of the case of the Supreme Court of the land at the time. We are back to our offices today to resume our rightful positions, knowing that there is no court prohibition on us and no notice of indictment from Yoko. For me, my foremost priority is to strive for genuine reconciliation among all stakeholders. It is only when genuine reconciliation is achieved can we restore the university to a functioning unit to live its mandate. We will work with relevant stakeholders to ensure this is achieved in the shortest possible time.
So that was Professor Avoka just yesterday speaking to the press. He had attempted to take back his office by force, but he was driven out by the police and he was forced to hold this press conference in front of the university. Today, the education minister has been responding to this at the press briefing today. The education minister, Opoku Prempeh, said Professor Avoka should have been arrested by the police.
I am not about commenting on UEW because as a responsible minister, I have to be cautious. But I can say without hesitation that there is only one vice chancellor in UEW. If this country wants to go in a lawless way, somebody can run from somewhere and come and sit in Flagstaff House very soon and say, I'm the president. There's only one legal, legitimate vice chancellor. It's Reverend Afro-Brody. Anybody who doesn't understand must go through the legal process. We are not, I repeat, we are not going to accept such things. Where would it end? Where would it end? I'm rather surprised that the police have not charged the trespassers in court by now. I'm rather surprised. Because even if you are, somebody must ensure that you are there. You can't really run to a school, go and sit in a chair and say you are ever. Hey, can we do a device access video? It's very easy like that. There's a process that we have to go through. You can challenge a process, you can go to court, you can challenge the process, and even if you win, it has to be executed. It's all through a legal means. We are not, and I repeat, we are not in a lawless state. That's all I can say.
Well, the University of Education winner, but they have a statement out tonight. My colleague Elton Brobe has a copy of that. Elton, what does the statement say?
So this is signed by the registrar of the university, and according to the statement, yesterday a group of dismissed staff led by the former Vice-Chancellor, Professor Mauta Avoke, stormed the main administrative block from where the Vice-Chancellor operates and headed straight to the council chamber to address a press conference to announce their assumption of the leadership of the university. Now, a team of security officers was called in and they swiftly removed this unruly and unauthorized group from the facility. Now, the Vice-Chancellor was at post attending to normal activities when the said unauthorized group bagged into the university facility. He remained at post and carried out his lawful duties. Now, let me come to a concluding part, which says that all administrative and academic activities, including our sandwich session, which commenced on Monday, July 22nd, are going on in earnest. We urge our stakeholders to remain calm and further wish to indicate that in due course we shall keep them and the general public abreast of any new developments in the university. And according to them, Professor Afro-Brody remains the only Vice-Chancellor of the university. And
we're also hearing tonight from the Public Relations Officer of the university, Ernest Azutiga, who says the school will resist any attempt by the former Vice-Chancellor to take over.
What happened yesterday was strange, preposterous, and in my own view, it was an attempted coup, so to speak, that was cooked and orchestrated and executed yesterday. Thankfully, the police were here on time to intervene and to ensure that nothing untoward happens in this university.
Part of the reasons why Professor Avoke came here yesterday was that he has been cleared of any procurement infractions by IOCO. In fact, he's been saying this for some time now. I think in April he held a press conference in Accra where he made the same claim. This
issue with IOCO having to clear Prof. Avoke, the university doesn't have anything against him. IOCO can clear him on certain allegations that they investigated. The point is that his dismissal was not premised on the work of Yoko or BNI. His dismissal was contingent on a piece of work done by Governing Council's fact-finding committee, which committee sought to gather facts in order that the university could defend itself at court. Whilst doing this, they came across certain infractions purported to then have been committed by Professor Avoke and those officers involved. And so, per the university processes, even when you have found such a thing, it doesn't mean that the people are guilty. It has to go through a process, which is that a board or a committee should be set up so that these people could go and answer to the questions that have been raised. So the university duly constituted a disciplinary board and invited these people to come and answer to those issues that had been raised. These gentlemen decided that they would not take that opportunity. The reason they gave was that the matter was before the law court.
Well, Parliament is taking an interest in the matter. We can speak to the ranking member on the Education Committee, Peter Nyotu. Mr. Nyotu, thank you for your time here on NEWSNITE.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mensah.
We seem to have a situation where the EUW's troubles will simply not go away. Has your committee intervened in this matter at all to try and use your powers to first understand what is happening, but also intervene in a way of bringing people together in the interest of the university?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. It is unfortunate that UEW is developing a very checkered history, a history that is not good for the university. We have spoken several times about the infractions taking place on the campus of University of Education, Winneba, and we hoped that this matter would come to rest. We are watching events carefully. Yesterday, what happened? Today, we've listened to the minister. As a committee, we have not met yet because we expected the minister to take an action and for him to come and brief the committee. I am aware he was in Parliament today, this afternoon, but he left shortly afterwards. So we are expecting that by tomorrow, he will brief the committee on the development so far, what steps the ministry is taking. You are very much aware of the development since the beginning of 2017 up to 2018. All that happened, and it's not good for the image of the university. So we are expecting government to resolve this matter once and for all. Now I'm not speaking for the committee now anyway. Once Yoko has cleared the former Vice Chancellor of any wrongdoing. In fact, I expected government to have called the former Vice Chancellor and then have a dialogue with him and his colleagues who were also dismissed, and then put the matter to rest.
But this matter has gone to court, and so you necessarily have to wait for the court to make a decision.
Yeah, but government can take steps to resolve the matter amicably, and then probably go back to court and say we have resolved the matter, and this is the outcome. This is the terms of agreement that we have come to, or the memorandum of understanding that we have come to, so that good academic work can continue in the university. Every day this, every day that, as I said, is not good for the university, and government must be bold to come out and put a stop to this.
I'm grateful that you joined us. That's Peter Nyotu. He is the ranking member on the Education Committee in Parliament. Still listening to NEWSNITE. Still ahead as we continue our campaign to protect media freedom and create awareness. We will hear from veteran journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. as he decries the partisanship and division in the media.
The fact that I'm a socialist does not mean that I should gloat when a non-socialist journalist gets into trouble. Journalism should unite all of us, irrespective of ideological inclination and so on, in the struggle to expand the space of freedom needed for our work.
More on that after business.
Promo wait there, I had there. Some people see you soon, Momo. If you say MTN, Exima Chadiano, Edia 2 Turbo, brand new Samsung 65-inch UHD Smart TV, and a brand new 2019 Hyundai, and a 3,000 Ghana, you should say Mono. MTN Momo. Still, Misaka, the journey of 1,000 smiles. Yashasha 10 years ago, and to celebrate this milestone, MTN give you away exciting prizes in the MTN Momo at 10 promo. Yeah, you use Momo, no? You could win one of the 2019 Hyundai i10 cars. Yes, some Samsung Smart TVs for baby, and they up to 3,000 CDs e-cash every month, and a grand prize, 2019 Hyundai Santa Fe in the MTN Momo at 10 promo. Into signing on and they keep using your MTN Momo. Now when it big, if it's happening, I see August only on Ghana's best network. Dial *120#. Now check your points. Terms and conditions apply. Just Momo 8. We're there for you everywhere you go.
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Honey, I need to get some.
But I don't have cash on me. Let me get some fuel quickly and let's go.
And how are you going to get the fuel? I thought you said you didn't have cash on you. What is this one?
My Puma card.
All it takes is a card. The Puma card allows you to buy fuel cash-free from all Puma energy filling stations. You can use your Puma card with any Visa points of sale and ATM across the country. The Puma card also works on mobile money. You get amazing discounts when you fill up with your Puma card. So register for free and get your Puma card instantly at any Puma filling station.
And you only got one for yourself, eh?
Yeah, would I have had my piece of mind?
Oh, thank you, honey.
And where are you going?
I'm getting something from the shop real quick. I need to test the card.
Puma card. Cash-free convenience.
Imagine living in a world of comfort and luxury. In a well-planned and gated community with access to an ultra-modern sports complex which has Olympic-sized swimming pools, football, basketball, athletics, and gym facilities. I'm talking about Eden Heights, the new destination for luxury in Ghana. Eden Heights is developed with the highest grade of finishing in our penthouses and our 1 to 4 bedroom apartments, and is located close to the beach resorts along the Atlantic Ocean, about 30 minutes drive from the airport and 5 minutes walk from the West Hills Mall. Eden Heights is the ideal location for luxury. Visit us at edenheights.com.gh or email to sales@edenheights.com.gh or call us on 050-153-1444 or 050-153-1445 for more information. Eden Heights, welcome home.
Joy 99.7 FM.
And George Yaffe is here with the business news. George, what do you have in the headlines?
Well, events coming up in the headlines. The World Bank warns next year's election still remains the biggest test when it comes to government's commitment to containing the rising expenditure. And Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been talking about what they're doing to actually talking about government's commitment to institute measures to help firmly stabilize the Ghana city. The business news on NEWSNITE is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you? Let's now settle for the details. The World Bank has maintained that it still sees next year's elections as government's biggest test when it comes to containing the rising expenditure. This was captured in the bank's latest economic update report on the country. There is more in this report.
According to the World Bank,
Even though some laws have been put in place to promote fiscal prudence, it is still not convinced because of some government actions in recent times. The bank in its report notes that the debt situation could also worsen due to challenges with revenue underperformance and high election-related spending leading up to the 2020 elections. The bank was also worried about programs being implemented to help match revenue with expenditure, which seems not to be getting the desired results, which could in the short term hurt the economy. The World Bank argues that the developments may support calls for some expenditure cuts going forward to help deal with the situation.
And that was a Business Desk report. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has given the firm assurance that government is committed to taking fresh measures this year to help firmly stabilize the Ghana cedi. The minister's assurance is coming as the Ghana cedi is said to have depreciated a little more this year already compared to last year. It went down by 8.2% against the dollar compared to 5.8% in 2017. Some analysts have attributed this challenge to rising government expenditure, but the minister tells Joy Business some strategic measures have been taken to help contain the rising expenditure and also deal with some of the fiscal challenges to ensure that the cedi firmly stabilizes against the dollar.
You know, the issue of the currency, I think, you know, in the short, medium term, we are going to have these challenges of trying to intervene. But what do we really want to do? You have a current account that ends up with us importing a lot more than we should. You know, so how do we now program ourselves to eliminate import-driven economy to import substitution or export-driven? And I think that's it. So if I look at $400 million worth of poultry imports, I need to have a strategy which says that within 3-4 years, I'm going to bring that down to 100 million or, you know, close to zero. But what does that mean? I need to communicate with the country that, you know, so it might be that in the short run, poultry may be more expensive as I reduce that, but in the end, this is where we as a nation will go to stabilize our currency. So I think those are sort of the long-term discussions we have to have it of rights. There's no reason, George, for us to be importing food.
And that was Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, the president of the Ghana Union of Traders, Dr. Joseph Obeng, says they will soon embark on a series of measures that result in nationwide shutdown of all shops belonging to Ghanaian retailers if government fails to address their issue with respect to foreigners actually trading in retail space. He spoke to Joy Business during a press conference to reopen shops of foreigners operating at the Opera Square.
The Destiny Day demonstration is going to see chaos in this country. We have never been uncivil, ever. But probably if you push too much, you see the animal in people. Where all other laws of the country are not going to be regarded the same way this law is not being regarded. Where traders are going to refuse payment of taxes. Where we are going to demonstrate, close down our shops and demonstrate on the streets.
Dr. Joseph Obeng is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Now, the Controller and Accountant General Department said it will soon blacklist and name and shame some financial institutions that are found to be sending unsolicited text messages to workers on the public payroll. The move by the Controller actually has been influenced by complaints by some workers and the Data Protection Commission on these unsolicited messages. According to the department, it has been forced to take this action to ensure that they protect actually these people who are complaining about this. Elizabeth Osei is head of payroll at the Controller and Accountant General Department.
It means that we are not going to allow them to operate on our third-party reference system that we use to transact business, a third party.
It means that they won't get access to the names of these public sector workers to send them these messages.
Not that, but they use that portal to transact business. All their loans and facilities they grant are done electronically via that portal. So once we disable their access, it means that they cannot transact business, as in give loans and other facilities, DOG employees.
Elizabeth Osei is head of payroll at the Controller and Accountants General Department. A lot more private firms are turning to the bond market to raise money to finance their operations. This has resulted in an increase in trading on the secondary market of the Ghana Stock Exchange over the past few months. Deputy Managing Director of the exchange, Eko Afezi, disclosed this to Joy Business, and he says this has brought a lot more excitement on the market. He said this following the announcement by Bond Savings and Loans to use the market to raise some 300 million Ghana cedis next month. He was speaking during when the company took a stand at the Ghana Stock Exchange. Facts behind the figures today.
We can have bonds, various maturities on it, corporate bonds. Any type of fixed income can be listed on that market for secondary trading. So corporates can issue bonds and have them on that market for liquidity purposes. That is, people can buy and sell. Same as providing liquidity for the government bonds. So what does happen? We have a lot more of the government bonds on the market now. When you take the corporate bonds, we have just about 10 of them. They've issued about 7 billion cedis worth of corporate bonds on the market so far. And we have more in the pipeline. You might see 1 or 2 before end of this year. So that will increase.
Eko Afezi is the acting managing director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, still on the market. Standard Chartered Bank today lost a cedi and is now worth 18 Ghana cedis at the end of trading on the stock market. And that is all for business on NEWSNITE, as we all look up to the finance minister's mid-year and possibly supplementary budget.
Next week, right?
Monday even.
Yes. It's everybody's looking forward to it.
Some are saying that could be the game changer for the perceived rigidity and some kind of slowness of the economy even.
Well, there's a lot hanging on that. We see what the finance minister says, especially on the back of the town hall meeting. That was the last major update on where we are as far as a lot of the economic issues are concerned. I guess so. We want to see maybe an update on the results from all the reforms. Yeah. And also, are we meeting our revenue target?
That's officially first 5 months of this year. Target? We are still struggling, Evan. Yeah. So what measures would he introduce to correct that challenge? Or maybe, Evans, there could be some cuts. Because if you can't raise more revenue,
you have to cut spending.
The best thing to do is to cut your expenditure to try and control the budget deficit.
Yeah. Very anticipated. Thank you very much, George, for that. So, listening to NEWSNITE on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, the National Media Commission has ruled that the presence of the DI group at the Osu Castle was unacceptable, as it describes Joy News militia in the heart of the nation documentary as in the public interest. Now, the commission, however, cited portions of the documentary as sensational. In March this year, the government of Ghana filed a complaint at the NMC against Joy News, demanding a retraction and an apology. But in their ruling, the commission said it finds the presence of the group at the castle problematic and unacceptable. Now, Joy News editor Fifi Kumsing has more from the ruling.
It's all set out in the facts of the ruling. On March 13, 2019, the Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, filed a complaint on behalf of the government of Ghana against the multimedia group before the National Media Commission in accordance with Article 167 of the 1992 Constitution. Now, the complaint was against a documentary we did, Militia in the Heart of the Nation. But the NMC says it is unfortunate that before the complaint was submitted, the government went public on the matter.
All right, so what the conclusions does the NMC come to?
A lot of items here. Now, let me tell you a few of them. The Commission set out the issues for determination to include the issue of what is a militia or vigilante, when the group exited the castle, and whether the portion of the documentary focused on the group exposed any act of violence. Now, the Commission took into account the argument of both parties and concluded that the disagreement did not so much affect the meaning of the word, but the question of whether some violent conduct had been exhibited. In the end, the Commission found out that the attempt to expose the facts that the group operated from the castle was in the interest of the public. However, in the attempt, the investigation had not been consistent in following the ethical standards defined by the Ghana Journalists Association Code of Ethics, particularly Guideline 23, which states that a journalist ensures that photographs and multimedia content adequately reflect an event and do not highlight an incident out of context.
The government demanded a retraction and an apology. Did the Commission grant that?
Not Not at all. In fact, the statement here says that the commission is of the view that whereas it finds the presence in the castle of the DI group problematic and unacceptable, the group did not manifest any violent conduct to be described as a militia or vigilante group from the documentary, as the people of Ghana have come to identify such groups. The commission finds the commentary on the documentary and the association with the Ayawaso West Wuogon violence as misleading and a misrepresentation. However, because the multimedia group published a rejoinder from the government, we direct that it publishes our ruling. And it concluded by saying that the commission commends both parties and their counsel for their cooperation and diligent manner in which they pursue the matter before the commission.
Just been joined on the line right now by Information Minister Kojo Ponkruma. Also on the line with me is Suleiman Brahma, who is the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time here on NEWSNITE. Mr. Ponkruma, your reaction to the NMC's ruling?
Oh, I don't think we have much of a reaction. First, let me say good evening to you, your listeners, and to Suleimana as well. I think right from the beginning we have mentioned that we hold multimedia in high esteem. I think we've been very clear with that. We took issue with a particular piece of work that was put out, and we sought to use the legal avenues to seek to advance our case. I think we are pleased that the key issues that we raised were found to be true by the Commission. We also take notice and agree with the view of the Commission that the attempt to uncover whatever was going on at the castle was in the national or the public interest, no doubt about it. And the view also that having published a rejoinder, an apology may not be necessary. Just what may be necessary will be a full publication of their findings as set out, and as I think you have read already. I think that in this enterprise of public engagement, we all don't get it right every time. And in an instance like this, without resorting to extreme measures, we can find ways by which we can get the record settled and build on from there.
And Mr. Brahma, let me bring you in here. You have spoken about this when it first came up. I don't know if you've seen the ruling, but from what you've heard already, satisfied with the decision or the way the NMC went about it, the way government and the multimedia group had approached this complaint, and the final decision that we now have before us today?
Well, let me start by saying that the decision by government to go to the NMC was a right decision. If you are not satisfied with something, it's one of the avenues that you can try to ventilate your concerns. And in the process, reading the decision by the NMC, it is quite clear that both parties, made themselves available and did cooperate with the whatever investigations or processes that the NMC undertook, and I think that is also quite commendable. However, as regards the decision from the Commission, first of all, I think this was a classical case that provided an opportunity for the Commission to help all of us, particularly journalists, in terms of how they go about doing investigations, particularly on matters of public interest and on matters that usually cannot be uncovered by routine methods. Now, the other point that I have is that even though the Commission set out for itself 3 key areas for determination, in the end, I don't think that it made conclusions that helps us understand whether on those 3 issues the journalist was wrong or right. Now, first of it is this idea of what is a vigilante group or a militia group. I think the decision from the Commission alludes to it, but it doesn't help because the question I asked is, if evidence was presented to the effect that the name of the group or the group, is a known group that used to be or is a vigilante group. For example, if I am a journalist and I discover a camp or a training base or whatever I would call it being used by invisible forces, Azoka boys, the Hawks, Bamba boys, and so on and so forth, and I film their activities. It could be that they are jogging, they are singing, and so on and so forth. But I established that that is a base they use. Must I, in that documentary, be able to film these people in violent activities before I can call them a vigilante group or a militia group, knowing who Bamba Boys are, Invisible Forces, the Hawks, and so on and so forth. So I think that the commission did not give a conclusion that, in my view, was quite logical. The second point is the critical issue about government saying, look, the group exited the castle in October 2018, and multimedia saying, no, they only were evicted after the documentary. Now, the commission on that matter says that, yes, government said that they were, they left the area, the castle in October 2018. Multimedia also then presented evidence to show that the government had made efforts to evict them. So one would have then been expecting the commission to conclude that, no, it is true that they left the place in October 2018, or no, it is true that they left only after the documentary was published. But the commission then comes in with a statement that one cannot just understand where that comes from in terms of saying, and again, multimedia then links, the documentary with the president. So the question is, what is the link between when they exited and whether or not the documentary had any association with the president? And then it goes on to talk about ethical issues. But the question is that the three areas that it set out for itself in terms of determining the complaint did not have anything talking about ethical infractions and so on and so forth. That is not to say that if there were issues bordering on ethics, it is not important for the commission to touch on. But that ought to have been stated as one of the issues that it wanted to make a decision on. So I don't think that the decision as we have now is quite helpful. I don't think it is straightforward to guide journalists and those of us in the media industry in terms of making decisions on similar issues going forward.
And I see this as grateful that for some great journalism class and debate in the many communication classes across the country, really. Mr. Oponkrumah, I take it and I assume that as far as government is concerned, this is a verdict that you welcome.
So without seeking to relitigate this matter, I think that the questions about whether or not the commission should have gone further to define what is a militia or not, and whether they should have defined a date on which these persons left the premises, and whether or not ethical issues were raised, are all pretty much captured if you read the full embodiment of the ruling. I don't really want to relitigate all of this. I think the key issues we raised were responded to by the commission. I think for us, what it does is that it deals with a specific production that we took issue with. And now that that is dealt with, we can put that behind us. We have said time and time again that we hold this organization in high esteem, and I think that in itself has even been missing in all of this conversation. It is this particular piece of work that we disagree with it. We welcome this ruling, and we hope that, for example, some of the regulations that the NMC refers to, and what I will consider as a silent caution that we should do well as journalists at all times to avoid things that will appear to be misrepresentations or misleading narratives, and as much as possible stick with maybe generally acceptable expressions of the facts as we uncover them, are things that we can all learn a lesson from and uphold.
Kojo Oponkrumah is Information Minister. LA Head Suleiman Abrama is Executive Director at the Media Foundation for West Africa. In the studio with me right now is Elvis Kwashi, who's the Managing News Editor here with a position from Multimedia on the ruling today as declared by the National Media Commission. What is our position, Elvis?
We respect the commission. We accept the decision, but we disagree.
Thank you very much. That's Elvis Kwashi.
Well, I just want to add also, because there was there's something in the ruling that said we link the president to the operations of the DI group. We didn't. All we did was to say that the owner or the leader of the group had worked with the president when he wasn't president. That's the only extent to which the president came to this conversation.
And this is just also to reiterate that this is all happening in the context of a lot of conversation already happening and information ministers themselves backing the campaign, in which we're going to hear from some of the advocates shortly. But there's a further point.
Yeah. When we sensational, I think to the extent that we use file photos, okay, for our online publication. Yeah, I admit that's a little sensational. Was the work a misrepresentation? No. Was it misleading? No. And eventually, we will publish fully facts and figures from this documentary.
Elvis Kwashi is managing news editor, and as I mentioned, we already have the free media campaign that is already going on, and a lot of voices lending their shoulders to it. Managing editor of the Inside newspaper, Kwesi Pratt Jr., is our lead campaigner for defending media freedom today, and he's raising concerns about the partisanship and divisions in the media in Ghana that, according to him, is the number one hindrance to defending media freedom in the country. Kwesi Pratt says the time has come for the media in Ghana to unite in the struggle for total freedom, insisting that nothing should justify the curtailing of freedoms of the media. He spoke to my colleague Emefa Pao.
Well, I think we should all be deeply worried about the level of enjoyment of freedoms in our society today. And when you have a situation where a journalist has just been shot, that should be frightening. I mean, you cannot be praising government or praising any other institution for making it possible for us to express ourselves freely when somebody has just been shot. You understand? I think it's also important for us to understand very clearly in your own outfit. I mean, a very seasoned senior journalist and so on had to run away from the country because he was seeking safety. This is no time for praise singing. This is the time to intensify the struggle for freedoms for all citizens, for media people and so on. You understand?
Do you think that with all the struggle that we've talked about, what you've all done, even towards getting the 1992 Constitution, in which that media freedom is also enshrined in Chapter 12, for instance, do you think that as a society, as a people, we really understand the role that the media played in the freedom and the democracy that we have as a country as it stands now?
Sometimes I'm utterly shocked by some statements that are made by media practitioners. I mean, been reading in the newspapers statements made by media practitioners to the effect that if the media is not responsible, then the freedoms will be taken away. And this is an utterly irresponsible statement. I mean, nothing justifies the limiting of the space for free expression. Nothing in the world.
Well, tomorrow we'll hear from editors who are debating the subject of how politics sometimes become the problem. And that further divides our front and makes it possible for people to break the front but also abuse us. We'll have a frank conversation among editors if you join us as part of this campaign as we begin to bring you all in. Remember, hashtag is Defend Media Freedom. Let's do some sports now. Hello, Hans.
Hello, Evans. And how much of the taxpayers' money was spent at AFCON 2019? The question has finally been answered. It was answered earlier today by the Minister of Youth and Sports, Isaac Esiam, on the floor of Parliament. A total of $6,365,033.84 was budgeted, out of which $4,564,352 was spent. The cost covered the playing body, technical team, members of Parliament, representatives of GALCA, some staff of the Sports Ministry and the GFA, members of the Supporters Union, and some journalists. Ranking member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sports and Culture, Kwabena Woyomi, says Parliament did not approve the said amount and has hinted the minister will be dragged back to the House to answer further questions.
Parliament did not approve $6.4 million for the ministry for appropriation in terms of we're embarking on in Egypt.
So, would it be accurate to say that this spending was done on the blind side of Parliament?
Well, on this case, I think one can easily indicate so, because we did not approve anything like this for any line item or expenditure like this for AFCON, in 2018, for appropriation in 2019. That was not done.
So that was the ranking member for the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sport and Culture, Kwabena Woyome. We are sure to have more answers on this particular document that was tabled before Parliament today by the Sports Minister.
Thank you very much, Hans Mensah Ando. That's it for Newsnight tonight. My name is Evan Spencer. Enjoy the rest of your evening.